Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a brand new video. Today, we will be exploring what rights migrants have. Let's get into this new reporting by the New York Times. And ladies and gentlemen, the article reads: This week, the Supreme Court cleared the way for Trump to deport plane loads of Venezuelan migrants. Trump called the ruling a victory. But here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. It is not necessarily a victory for Trump, his allies, nor his administration, nor his corrupt DOJ. And here's why. Because there is a catch to it. What is that catch? Well, let's break that down right now in the video. The administration's rationale can still be challenged, and it must ensure that would-be deportees have their day in court. All 9 members of the court agree that judicial review is available, said Justice Brett Kavanaugh in his concurrence. Of all Trump's actions so far, few have alarmed democracy scholars more than his mass deportations of migrants without a hearing. Ladies and gentlemen, you might be asking yourself, well, why? Well, let's explain that and figure that out in today's video. Right now, we're about to go over it. Ladies and gentlemen, it's because experts see a precedent that could undermine the liberties of all Americans. Your rights to due process, your day in court, underpins all of your other rights. If a prosecutor wants to deny you freedom and lock you up, she has to make a case. She has to make her case. If a police officer illegally violates your privacy and searches your house to try to prove a crime, a trial can verify if he gathered the evidence legitimately. If Congress passes a law that lets officials arrest you for your political speech or religious beliefs, a court challenge can get the statute overturned. It turns out that some of the Venezuelan migrants who were packed into planes and shipped to a prison in El Salvador may not be the gang members who officials say they are. That fact could have come out in hearings. Today's newsletter Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. In today's newsletter, we will get that explained to us in today's video by Justice Brett Kavanaugh. He'll explain. He'll being Justice Brett Kavanaugh. Why our constitutional system depends on due process and what might happen without it. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to get into getting heard. Trump and his allies argue that his deportations last month targeted criminal migrants, specifically Venezuelans who were not citizens and were part of a gang, Trendy Aragua. But his administration never had to prove those claims in court. A judge never checked the government's work, and the government made mistakes. Officials rounded up migrants based on their clothes and tattoos, arguing they were proof of gang membership. A judge would bring skepticism to such claims. Several migrants say the government got it wrong with its crude approach. One migrant says his tattoo is a crown that merely honors the soccer team Real Madrid. Another, Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia, had protected legal status. The administration acknowledged it shouldn't have deported him immediately, and a lower court ordered his return. The Supreme Court has put that order on hold for now. The cases show the importance of due process. Governments mess up. Sometimes officials act maliciously and abuse the power. The Constitution has an answer to those problems. A defendant's day in court forces the state to prove that its actions are justifiable and lawful. The administration has also made several other unprecedented immigration moves, such as revoking the visas of nearly 300 students without a clear explanation. So far, these cases are following some measure of due process. The students can challenge the decision before they're deported. But if officials start to ship these students home without a hearing, that would clearly break with the Constitution. A lack of due process presents a slippery slope. If government officials can say anything, true or not, to justify their actions as they did with the Venezuelan migrants, what stops them from doing that to an American citizen if they never have to prove someone is actually who they say he is? They can claim anything and act with impunity against anyone. Trump's deportations set a precedent that his opponents could abuse once they're back in power. Republicans have benefited in recent elections from growing support among Latino voters, including Venezuelans. However, ladies and gentlemen, that is solely not going to be the case anymore after Donald Trump betraying the Latino community because of his illegal, unconstitutional actions of deporting some Latinos that have citizenship status in the United States. F. Donald Trump. You racist SOB. Continuing with the article. A Democratic president could cite Trump's actions to deport so-called Venezuelans, claiming they're also criminals with Aragua. And in the country illegally, all without a court hearing. Fortunately, ladies and gentlemen, I can verify that for you guys right here and right now in today's video, that Democrats won't be corrupt like Donald Trump's POS, alienated self, and deport people illegally. Continuing with the article. Even some of Trump's backers worry about the slipshod deportations. The podcaster Joe Rogan warned on his show You've Got to Get Scared that people who are not criminals are getting, lassoed up and deported and sent to, El Salvador prisons. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to get into the legal arguments. The Trump administration argues that it has the power to ignore due process in these cases. That is a flat-out lie, ladies and gentlemen. That is a flat-out lie. As 9 Supreme Court justices have said, you, Donald Trump, meaning the president, is bound to follow the Constitution. If he doesn't, there will be consequences to his actions. Whether if they're lethal or non-lethal actions, now that's just depending on the type, on the decisions of the of his actions. It says the influx of unauthorized immigrants into the United States is an invasion, meaning these migrants are effectively alien enemies. No, they are not. Donald Trump and his administration are lying through their teeth yet again, just like that skinflint broad Pam Bondi. Officials say that the president has special wartime powers such as those outlined in the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to detain and deport people without trial. Again, this is a lie. They also say that non-citizens, especially those in the country illegally, don't have the same rights as Americans. This is again another lie. Not according to the 14th Amendment birthright citizenship clause. That was established after Juan Kim Ark brought his case to the Supreme Court. Trump's critics disagree. The constitutional amendments that enshrine due process rights apply to persons, not just citizens. Tellingly, current Supreme Court justices have noticed regret for Japanese internment during World War II, which detained people without due process. And generally, migrants have the right to challenge the removal in court, as my colleagues Albertson, the article reads. Miriam Jordan explained. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, here's a looks like a graph of due process rights for different groups. The Supreme Court's ruling this week suggests that the justices agree with Trump's critics that migrants, even people here illegally, have due process rights. That finding, however, is preliminary. The justices will likely issue a full decision after deportees challenge the law and appellate judges examine the issue. The court's verdict could see the boundaries of everyone's due process rights. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for today's legal breaking reporting and legal analysis video. If you did enjoy this legal breaking reporting and legal analysis video, please consider liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. If you want to make sure that you never miss a brand new legal breaking reporting, please hit the bell icon that is right next to the subscribe button on the right hand side directly below the screen here, and click the all notifications options rather than the personalized notifications options. That way you're notified of every single breaking legal analysis reporting video. Another way you guys can be notified of every single legal breaking analysis reporting video is by following me on my social medias that I will have linked down below. I'm on Instagram, Snapchat, and Threads, as well as TikTok. Thirdly and lastly, ladies and gentlemen, please help me reach and achieve the overall channel goal of 150 plus subscribers. The reason why I'm saying 150 plus subscribers is because right after we reach and achieve the goal of 150 subscribers, we have more subscribers to achieve and reach right after we reach and achieve the goal of 150 subscribers. Until my next reporting and legal breaking analysis video, ladies and gentlemen, please stay safe, please stay positive, and know that justice will prevail despite Donald Trump's and his illegal administration's unconstitutional illegal efforts and executive orders.